Chest wall did not go down. Abdomen went down a little bit, but the chest wall did not go down. So those abs did not exhale that air. What pushed the air out? What pushed the air out? Something that moved the spine forward. What muscle moves your spine forward in the thoracolumbar area? Anybody? Thank you. Who said that? Rick, congrats. Well, we're supposed to use the diaphragm for inhalation, not for what? Exhalation. Well, that's why it's paradoxical. That's a huge concept. About everybody we're talking about this morning don't know how to exhale without using their diaphragm to exhale with. That's totally paradoxical, Rick. That should never be going on. But if that's the only abdominal wall you've got, because you don't know how to get the ribs to come down, why would you be surprised that it's not going to happen that way? What else will accompany the diaphragm to exhale? Back extensors. How about Mr. Lat? How about Mr. Lat and the diaphragm teaming up? How about they team up and they really get that air out? Because you just did it. You all stood. You all had your ribs going up. I know two things that'll do that. A lat and a diaphragm. Working together. The lat and the diaphragm should be completely opposite working together. Completely. When the diaphragm contracts, the lat should be relaxed. When the lat contracts, the diaphragm should be relaxed. The diaphragm's held in position by the abs. If the abs are on and the back's contracting, you're going to make it in life just fine. We call that neutrality. And in PRI, you are going to test for it. And if you can maintain neutrality and you have pain somewhere else, I know it's not ventilatory related. But why would I treat anything else until I know you don't have a ventilatory problem? I went over that kind of fast, but did that make sense? So nice answer, Rick. That's paradoxical. So inhalation. Inhalation during or by using the diaphragm only results in a protruding abdomen. Synchronized chest and diaphragm conjugal movement. The chest and the abdomen move in and out together. It's just like exhalation. When you breathe, that conjugal movement, that diaphragm will move the chest out because expansion's occurring. At the same time, the dome of the diaphragm's two central tendons are contracting and coming down, which means the abdomen contents have to come forward. Did you hear what I said, abdominal specialists? Have to come forward. So if you tell somebody to tighten up your abs and breathe in, you just create a major little problem. It's called pelvic floor discord. The abdomen has to what, Gail? Come a little forward when you breathe in, just like the chest wall. That's normal inhalation. This is not normal inhalation. Is it? She just took a breath of air in, and instead of the abdomen going forward, which way did the abdomen go? Down. That's a problem. That means there was no contents pushed down. That means that all the contents were what? Pulled up. Ribs went up. Back extended. My mid-shoulder area is hurting. Everything is pulling air in from T8 up. That's paradoxical breathing. And I really think that page, what page are you on? You really probably ought to look at it a few more times than what we're giving it time for today. That ought to be on your refrigerator door, Jonathan. That ought to be on every lineman's locker door. Correct what, Jonathan? Breathing. Correct breathing. Correct exhalation. Correct inhalation. On page 4, you have abdominal oblique disuse. These are all complementary to this whole thing about breathing. This is a normal looking spine, the manubrium, the sternum position, T7, T12, L3, and T1. That's a pretty good looking normal spine. Came from Lee in the Journal of Respiratory Physiology and Neurobiology. And this is what I would consider good flexion. That's flexion. This is extension. With extension, you're going to see a flatter back. With extension, you're going to see a flatter diaphragm. Okay? This rectus is eccentrically oriented for not all of this, for this picture right here. Your rectus would be eccentrically oriented. In other words, your abdominal muscle will only respond to length. What does length mean? Eccentrics. That's what it means. And if you have a body and a brain that says, I'm only going to respond to length, eccentrics, you got to teach that body how to respond to short, concentrics. This reach world is starting to really sound pretty attractive, isn't it? The reach world. I didn't say ab reach world. I said reach world. Reach. So we really want to get you into this state to make you more concentric. This is a 16-year-old swimmer who's eccentric. That's how he moves. He swims with his rectus. Rectuses that want to be what? Long or short? Long. Doesn't look human, but he is. He has no IOs and TAs. He primarily works with a spine that cannot what? Rotate through what? Rib shifting. His ribs are either on or on. In other words, they're never what? Off. Because that's the only way he can breathe. They're either on or on. Because they never will shut what? Off. He needs to really learn how to concentrically use something down here. I mean, guys, he's just laying there, breathing.
Did he breaststroke and fly?
I don't know this kid. Do you, Jen, know? There it is. Weak EOs and TAs and contralateral IOs and TAs. Poor left TA and IO integration. This lady is also having a tough time integrating these IOs and TAs out here. This is a person who has some swimmer pictures. Weak abdominal muscles, mid and lower traps, glutes and dorsiflexors. This is that forward head. The sternocleidomastoid will be straight up and down, Rick, straight up and down. They'll be they'll hyperextend their knees. They'll be a little lordotic, and they'll have a very flat spine. They're going to have wider infrasternal angles. In other words, if you look at their angle, it'll be more than 90 degrees. It's a big concept. You know, you can either have a mama bear, which is like 90 degrees, 100 degrees, 85 degrees. A baby bear, 60 degrees, which is really not good because there's no chest expansion. Or a big daddy bear, like 180, way out here. So you want that normal. You could have unilateral bilateral rib flares, which we've been talking a little bit about. Here's another person with a bilateral rib flare, but very more prevalent. This is the norm. You see the little Russian kind of chest wall here, sunken in. Ribs are forward because the shoulder blade is, arms are forward because the shoulder blade is following those ribs, following the rib position, which we will get into tomorrow. Pecs are very overactive. See the pecs? Very overactive. Pec major is overactive here. Pec minor is overactive here. Make a memory. That is what we see on almost all these individuals that come in with ventilatory distress. That picture, to some extent, that picture. The right opposition, deep inhalation with right opposition. In other words, he's taking a breath of air in with right opposition. Do you see this, everybody? Took a breath of air in. ZOA was maintained on which side? The right. No ZOA on the left. Call it neglect, call it cortical, call it preliminary, call whatever you want. That's norm. We all have a little bit of that. Every one of you. Don't take my word for it. Read. You all do. Every one of you. Here's a rib flare that's more prevalent in this picture on the left and the right. Again, you see the eccentric activity, not concentric. Another picture, see in that mark how high that baby is. They're just laying here. This is rib cage development. Okay. Slides helpful? See this? Another picture. There's those Harrison grooves. Someone's got a PRI technique ready for them in the wings. Here's a chest wall that's concave, convex. That's a left